Hello, how's it going? Nelson Stein here, again with another fishing video. Back at Rocky Lake at the moment. It's a nice place to fish. Trying to find a new way to make money here so far. Not the best of success, but we're getting there. Also going to talk about one of my favorite sports, if not my favorite, the pinnacle of motorsport, Formula One. Now, we all knew there was going to be at least one vein of drama throughout the summer period. Because the summer period is when all the drama happens, basically. It's when contracts get sorted, we find out who's driving where. We see if any teams are folding, if any new ones are announcing to return. And, of course, we evaluate what has happened so far in the Formula One season. At this point last season, Sebastian Vettel, I believe, was just leading the championship. This time Lewis Hamilton is leading the championship, and with the biggest gap that they've had between them, I believe, since the first couple of races. So right now it's looking very good for Hamilton and Mercedes. But here's the thing. Kimi Räikkönen is above Valtteri Bottas, and to be honest, apart from the unlucky races, I think Kimi has been just as unlucky. So I think even if Hamilton was to be successful at the end of the season, become a 5-time champion, it's not a guarantee that Mercedes will win the Constructors. Because you see, last season, the second half of the season was absolutely dire for Ferrari. Absolutely dire by their standards. They were fighting with Mercedes after Hungary, and then after that, nothing from Ferrari. They were a very little threat. The Red Bulls became a bigger threat to Mercedes, and of course, we all know the pace difference in the Red Bulls and the Mercedes. So, yeah, the Mercedes won quite easily last year, as we all probably remember. But this time, it is most definitely on. Most definitely. And I think it's going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting. So, what are my predictions for this season? I'm hoping Ferrari give Mercedes a right go. I want to see Lewis Hamilton become world champion again, because as the season's gone on, I've kind of lost a bit of respect for Sebastian Vettel, and I think Lewis has definitely proved to be the better driver. However, I would love it if Ferrari won the Constructors, so they at least won something to sort of revamp them for future seasons, and of course that would mean that Vettel and Kimi would stay in the running, and that would be good. That would be good to see Ferrari just stay there rather than drop away, even if it's a second race. You don't want to drop away. That's how... excuse me. But, you know, that's the difference. The consistency of this. So, we are now going to have a look at what is going to happen next season. Now, what's going to happen at McLaren? Fernando Alonso has been dragging the car into points. Stoffel Van Dorn, to be blunt, sucked. This is the rumor. Fernando Alonso this week has a decision to make. If he's going to be a Formula One driver next year, or if he's going to move to the IndyCar series. Now, if McLaren keep giving him an uncompetitive car, then he's such a great driver to the sport. The other thing, having brought that up, is the interest McLaren have announced in Carlos Sainz Jr. That's right. The Renault driver, who technically is a Red Bull driver, has piqued the interest of McLaren, and of course McLaren want to make a deal with Sainz so that he's technically not a Red Bull contracted driver. They want to sign him outright, make him a McLaren driver in a McLaren. Now you've got a question: if Van Dorn leaves, Alonso stays. Yes, Sainz would go into the team, but if both of the current McLaren drivers leave, who's going to fill the gap? Now I have a couple of little theories about this. Now, this first one is probably the most likely. For God's sake, the connection's gone. It doesn't... Right, yeah, basically this next one is the most likely, that if both drivers leave, the second driver that'll get announced alongside Carlos Sainz will be Lando Norris, who at the moment is second in the Formula 2 World Championship, behind Mercedes prodigy George Russell, who recently, by the way, in the summer practice in the Hungaroring for Formula 1, they were all test driving the cars, and George Russell set a new track record. And bear in mind, this is after the current Formula 1 drivers set track records on practice themselves. It's incredible. It's incredible app. So, I think Lando Norris, definitely proving his weight by competing with drivers like that, is ready for a chance at McLaren to be one of the next new young prodigies. So, if you agree with that, let me know. If you disagree with that, well, let me know. But I'm definitely going with the Lando Norris Sainz partnership as the most obvious. Here's the other one that I want to happen. If issues happen with Force India, Sergio Perez or Sebastian Ocon go to Renault. Okay, hear me out. They go to Renault to partner Daniel Ricciardo. Of course, that's the biggest news. I'll just drop that bombshell on you if you didn't already know. Daniel Ricciardo has signed with Renault next season. He will no longer be a Red Bull driver. He will be a Renault driver in the yellow car. So, Sainz off to McLaren. Norris teaming up. Issues at Force India. I believe Ocon or Perez will also go to Renault, a team who is clearly building for the future. And if I was them right now with Ricciardo in the car, I'd want Ocon over Perez. Perez kind of had his chance in the McLaren and he didn't do that well, but this time if you put Ocon in it, Ocon deserves a chance as a Mercedes driver on loan. I think that would really work for Ocon. Now, I didn't forget about Nico Hülkenberg, because this is the main point to the second theory. Nico Hülkenberg goes on to partner whoever is at McLaren. Whether it's Alonso, whether it's Sainz. I believe Hülkenberg could be in with a shout if Alonso leaves. So yeah, actually, yeah, that's what I meant. If Alonso leaves as well as Van Dorn, then that's what we have. We would have a Hülkenberg Sainz, basically double switch to McLaren. And I think that could be quite fun. I think that could be really fun. I'm not sure if there's anything else of major interest to talk about Formula One at the moment. We know George Russell's not getting a seat at Mercedes because Bottas and Hamilton have been confirmed next season. Ferrari say it's not time for Charles Leclerc to get into a Ferrari, so very, very likely we'll see Kimi Raikkonen in the Ferrari next season again. No complaints from me. The Flying Finn is one of my favourite drivers of all time. Certainly one of the funniest. And come on, you could say yes, he hasn't won a race this season, but how many podiums has Kimi Raikkonen had in his career? And for good reason, let me tell you. The man is a bona fide legend in my book. Absolute legend. So, we'll reckon Charles Leclerc stay at Sauber for another season. Or if they do manage to stay at administration, they would probably like someone with cheaper wage or is already paid for. So maybe Leclerc might step in at Force India should my Ocon prediction come true. It also depends on what happens with Perez, because Perez is currently indebted money by Force India, if you didn't know this already. Because of the administration and the money problems Force India have had, Carlos Sainz is currently due £3 million in wages. Now that sounds like a hell of a lot for Sergio Perez, but when you add it up you realise that's probably about 2 years of wages that he hasn't been paid. Which you've got to respect that he's doing this for the love of Formula One. That's what you notice about this sport more than others. It's definitely about the passion and not about the money. And I think it's because of that sort of life-defying risk you take with going in a fast car. I think passion trumps greed almost every time. Maybe not with the car you move to, but this guy's not getting paid. And he's been asked to do it. So we talked about Charles Leclerc, we talked about Force India, we talked about McLaren, we talked about Ricciardo going to Renault. But here's the final rumour. Rumour of Charles Leclerc does get his seat at Ferrari next season. Kimi doesn't stay. Kimi has also said he's not ready to retire. But Raikkonen will not race in a Sauber. It's difficult. This rumour is the most difficult to deal with. If Leclerc goes to Ferrari and Raikkonen doesn't want to retire, where is he honestly going to go? I mean, would he go to Sauber? No. Would he go to Force India? Even though I said greed is nothing in Formula One, when you're looking at guys that age still in Formula One, they kind of want a little bit of money, you know. Alonso will, Raikkonen will, Hamilton's currently the most highest paid, and Vettel's the second highest paid. It's tricky to think. Would Grosjean, say if Grosjean continues to have screw-ups this season, would Grosjean leave Haas potentially end up going to one of these smaller teams? And would we see Kimi Räikkönen in a Haas? Now, hear me out. Out of all of the options, that may be the better one. It just seems I'm not going to say the move makes sense, because it doesn't, but if something is going to happen, I think that's the likeliest. Yeah, I'm going to go with Haas if it was going to happen. He's hardly going to go to Williams. He's not going to go to Force India, who are paying. Renault have already got their options sorted in my mind, and I don't think Kimi Räikkönen... I don't think Räikkönen and Ricciardo would get along as teammates. I really, really don't. Räikkönen, yeah. Don't know what else to really pick. We're not having a lot of luck at the moment on this lake. It's kind of disturbing. Well, yeah, I think that covers everything. Sorry, I was just checking through the loops. I think... yeah, I don't see any of the other lower drivers making a move. I mean, the only other talking point at the moment, which I actually completely forgot about, I do apologize, there is something. The most obvious one. Ricciardo left. There's a seat at Red Bull available, and we know it's not going to be filled with Daniel the Torpedo Kvyat again. So, is it going to be Gasly? Has he earned a promotion from Toro Rosso, or a Red Bull going to maybe bring Alonso from McLaren for one of my predictions to happen? Now that's something I'm actually going to leave with you guys, because I actually don't have a fucking clue who would be able to be the replacement for Daniel Ricciardo at Red Bull. I think that's going to be a very bizarre conversation, and you know, if McLaren wants Sainz that bad, they'll sign him, but let's face it, if he's still a Red Bull driver, maybe that means Sainz will go there, and maybe if Charles Leclerc gets to see at Ferrari, Raikkonen may easily want to go back to McLaren again. Now, there's the final rumour for you. Raikkonen at McLaren, Sainz dodging McLaren to go into Red Bull, and then of course Charles Leclerc in a Ferrari. So I'll leave you to mull that one over. This has been Dan Nelson. Speak to you later.